There are discoveries that fascinate scientists, and then there are those that haunt them. Deep beneath the earth, inside a cave sealed for tens of thousands of years, lies a painting, simple at first glance, but so disturbing that even the most seasoned archaeologists hesitated to interpret it. It's over 20,000 years old, created long before written language, kingdoms, or cities. A message left by people who had no words, only symbols. And yet, what they painted still manages to send a chill down the spine of anyone who looks at it. This isn't just ancient art. It's a window into the darkest corners of the human mind. A glimpse at what our ancestors feared most. It began with a collapse. A crack in a limestone wall exposed a hidden chamber in southern France. Inside, the air was still, untouched for millennia. When archaeologists descended into the chamber, their lights revealed scenes that seemed alive. Horses running, mammoths in motion, lines of bison painted with breathtaking skill. But in one corner, separated from the others, was a single figure, faint, humanoid, and wrong. The body was sprawled out, arms stretched, the head replaced by something inhuman. Around it were marks that looked like weapons, or perhaps wounds. The pigment used, red ochre, gave the illusion of blood. At first, they thought it might be part of a hunt scene, but as more was revealed, a terrifying pattern began to emerge. Other caves across Europe, Lascaux, Chauvet, Pechmerle, and Cosquer, all contained similar figures. Humans pierced, twisted, dying. These weren't accidents or random doodles. They were deliberate, detailed, remembered. It was as if the Ice Age world had recorded its violence on stone. To understand this painting, we need to go back, much further than France, further than Europe itself, to the birthplace of symbolic thought. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists discovered ochre stones engraved with crosshatch patterns dating back more than 70,000 years. These weren't tools or weapons. They were ideas. Art. They showed that early humans were capable of abstract thought, of creating something not for survival, but for meaning. And what's even more unsettling, humans weren't alone in this. In Spain, red symbols and handprints over 64,000 years old were found in caves long before Homo sapiens arrived. The artists? Neanderthals. That means the urge to create, and maybe to remember fear, was older than us. It was something primal, shared across species. So by the time early humans reached Ice Age Europe, art had become a tool, not just to decorate, but to communicate stories, beliefs, and warnings. Imagine Europe 20,000 years ago. Glaciers the size of continents, endless plains of ice and wind, and scattered across this frozen wilderness, tiny groups of humans, maybe a few dozen at most. They lived by hunting mammoths, reindeer, and bison, always moving, always surviving. To them, the world was alive. Every animal, every storm, every shadow in the cave held power. And deep underground, they painted. Some believe it shows a shamanic ritual, a trance in which the hunter merges with the animal. Others think it's the record of a real death, a failed hunt immortalized in paint. But there's one interpretation that unsettles even the most skeptical researchers, that the man in the painting is not a hunter at all. He's a warning. For decades, people imagined the Ice Age as peaceful, humans living in harmony with nature, simple and pure. But evidence tells another story. Archaeologists studying modern hunter-gatherers found that over half of violent deaths were personal, not war, not defense, but murder, revenge, jealousy, betrayal. Now imagine that world. Isolated bands, scarce food, superstition, fear of the unknown. When violence happened, It was unforgettable. And in a world without writing, the only way to remember was to paint. Those human figures pierced with spears might not be random victims. They could be traitors, outcasts, or warnings to others. Their deaths turned into myth, retold by firelight, and eventually carved into stone. What terrifies archaeologists isn't just the art itself. It's the realization that these ancient people, who lived so far from us in time, were not so different. They loved, feared, fought, and remembered their dead, just like we do. Other caves across Europe show even stranger scenes. A man half human, half bison, writhing, bleeding, transforming. A hunter fleeing a charging animal, forever frozen in motion. And the same abstract symbols, grids, spirals, bird shapes, repeating from one cave to another, as if part of a secret language no one alive can read. Some archaeologists believe these were the earliest religious symbols, part of rituals meant to connect the living and the dead. Others think they were stories, ancestors of myth. But one thing is clear. Violence and fear were not hidden from their art. They were central to it. Where we use stories and movies to express darkness, they used walls and stone. The cave wasn't just a place of shelter. It was a temple, a memory vault. And what they painted there wasn't meant for us to see. So why did this 20,000-year-old painting terrify archaeologists? Because it forces us to confront a truth we'd rather ignore. That violence, death, and belief are as old as humanity itself. That behind every masterpiece of prehistoric art is not just beauty, but terror. And that the people who made them, long before nations, gods, or language, already understood what it meant to suffer, to kill, to remember, and to warn. This painting, and the others like it, are not just echoes from the past. They are mirrors. And in them, we see ourselves, our fears, our stories, our darkness, painted 20,000 years ago, by hands that once trembled just like ours. The Ice Age caves are silent now. The torches are gone. The people who painted those walls have turned to dust. But their voices remain, not in words, but in images. And sometimes, those images whisper something we don't want to hear. That the monsters we fear most were always human,